Welcome, friends. Welcome to another episode of the Global Women in Leadership Conversation Series. GCPIT has started this global conversation series with women achievers and leaders to understand their journey, to learn from their experiences, and also to pave the way for more women leaders to join the wagon to create a sustainable change in the society in terms of gender equality, diversity, and inclusion. To tell us more about her leadership journey towards gender equality, diversity, and inclusion, we have a very special person with us today. She is the managing director of Beyonder Limited, a Glasgow-based textile manufacturer specializing in prototyping, sampling, and short production runs for ethical product designers. She founded Beyonder in early 2013 as a profit-for-purpose organization and was one of the first employers to commit to the Glasgow living wage. Prior to creating the textile business, which she now heads, Chrissy's background was in youth employment, training, and development. Her vision for Beyonder is a collaborative and supportive organization which will inspire both new business startups and scale-ups to adopt a global perspective in all their business activities whilst retaining sensitivity to the needs of their local communities. Her vision for Beyonder is committed to working towards a fully inclusive circular economy model. The blend of ethical entrepreneurship, environmentally friendly product manufacturing, and employee-centered business leadership, which she has brought to Beyonder, is greatly in demand and very well received in the growing community of independent designers who are attracted to the Beyonder label. She represents Beyonder as part of the Scottish Circular Economy Business Network. As well as being a dedicated ambassador for Women's Enterprise Scotland, Chrissy is an active member of the Incorporation of Weavers, supporter of Kinship Care Initiative Glasgow and Smart STEMs, and is also a member of Scotland Women in Technology. She is now one of GCPIT's 100 chosen global women leaders and also the winner of She Trades Global Leadership Awards 2021. Let me proudly welcome Ms. Christina Scott to the show. Welcome.
Thank you, Aparna, so kindly. What a fabulous introduction.
You have been with us in the Womenomics second edition and you have been supporting me day in and day out in the coordination of the event. I really loved your attitude and the way you were supporting everyone and coordinating everyone. Leading without a title is a quality which I really admire in people and wish everyone had. And I believe it only comes through life experiences. Can you tell me who were your early influences in leadership?
I suppose growing up, iconic role models and leaders were not really a known entity to me. However, to name a few of the iconic leaders who have been very prolific in the kind of pathway that I've taken, I'd really like to say educator Rita Pearson. She is a force of nature and just such a champion for young people. And I truly believe that if we actually, can support that focus on our young people and build that right through to adulthood, then we might all go on a lot better and have that cooperative approach. Martin Luther King, in terms of activism and fairness, absolutely standing up for doing what is right, absolutely crucial. Economist Amartya Sen, an absolute stalwart for me, really understanding the intersectionality that, we can't have any form of proper economic development unless we're actually investing in people. And Janine Benyus, who is a biomimicry leader, phenomenal woman. And so for me, it's all the disciplines that all those leaders have followed, and I suppose many more. But we didn't really get those growing up. For me anyway, it wasn't something I was aware of. So it was more local role models for me. My mum was probably my biggest role model. She was a single parent, she worked full time. And it wasn't until I grew up being surrounded by other strong women who overcame many barriers. But it wasn't until maybe I was in my 20s that I really started exploring and understanding the levels of inequality and how they came. And that's one of the founding principles of Beyonder, that regardless of any barriers, that we can create a place for anyone.
I think yes, it's a big list, and we all have many role models. Especially mom is always a role model. And what inspired you to enter this textile business and to start beyond that?
Oh, it was quite an interesting jump. We had started the business 8 years ago. We started out in education. We did that very well and in full partnership with Glasgow City Council education leaders and their team. And that was a full collaborative approach from the start. So we did that very successfully within a couple of years. And we were looking for a commercial model, a commercial arm to fund our work in education, because our philosophy was about how do we work in partnership as a business along public sector so that we can get bigger impact for less spend. And that's where all the wheels started to come off the bus. We ran it as a cost centre for a year. We wanted to explore why there was such a gap in the market for small batch. What does that mean to the people who might work in those teams? What does that mean as a service? How do we compete locally and globally? How and where are there opportunities to collaborate so that it strengthens industry and raises standards? And I suppose for us, it was really digging deeper into the intersectionality of modern slavery, particularly in women and children, and the climate challenge and how textiles is one of our biggest polluters to the planet. And so that's where the modelling began to be developed from. But I must admit, it's been a real battle getting people to understand that having both social and environmental impact in an early model, in a traditional industry. People talk about it, but they're not really keen to put their money where their mouth is. So that's what we decided to do. We said, yes, it can be done. We can create that social norm where everyone is paid a living wage, and we can take this and make it more collaborative. And that's what we've done.
Yes, that's an amazing thought behind this. And we are talking about collaboration. See, we all talk about collaboration and co-creation. During the pandemic, you have put in a real effort to support a collective of regional businesses and organizations producing the essential PPE kit, right? Personal protective equipment for the health and care workers on the front line in Glasgow and surrounding areas. Well, that would have been a great support for those businesses, right? What made you think of such a collaboration?
It wasn't my collaboration. I was very thankful to be invited to be taking part. It was actually a Strathclyde University motorsports team who led the fundraising initiative for it. They brought in partners Paisley YMCA, a local charity, and a Glasgow-based startup, This Is Makers. And that then the project ended up being led by Sarah Nazir at This Is Makers. And so I count myself as an absolute follower in this project rather than a leader. But the synergy from all of us was just phenomenal. We managed to achieve a very large output for a very limited finite amount of money, and that was all through donation support, giving our services for free, using our equipment for free, doing deliveries for free. And what I loved about working with this team was the real synergy and understanding of looking at it not just from a product to support, but also the mapping and tracking of the supply chain, the environmental impacts. How do we recover these? How can we use the product at the front? We wanted to make sure that we could create that circularity. And so now Sarah and Aaron from This Is Makers are now working with the National Manufacturing Institute for Scotland on commercialisation of their visor.
Okay, and I also read about the philanthropic division of Beyond Their Family, or Beyond. Can you please tell us what are the activities involved?
So as I explained earlier, when we first set up Beyonder, we set out because we were working in education. So when we then traversed into manufacturing, I think we very much scared our accountants. And so what we wanted to do was have a bit of a division so that we could have clarity. And so we used the commercial arm, even although it was running at a loss initially because we were investing in people where others weren't. And so, but it meant that we would then give the pro bono work to our charity through our education, and that's basically what we do. So we do digital and textile products in and around local schools. And we've been doing that for a number of years, and we have a separate board of trustees for our governance, and we are hopefully just about to do another bigger project if Social Investment Scotland invest in us. So we're very excited about the future for both the charity and Beyonder, which is getting ready to go to employee ownership.
I think that's amazing. I went through your website and read about the activities involved. It's amazing. It's a very good thought. And
Thank you.
you are also the founder of Digiloop, right? So what are the activities of Digiloop?
So where we have had real battles and challenges getting our model understood in Scotland for the past 5 years, as much as we would love our public sector to travel this journey with us, we can't keep inviting them and banging our heads against closed doors. So if you consider Digiloop is basically Beyonder on steroids with more freedom and more support, it's going to be limited by shares, it's going to go out and raise impact investment so we can take our circular manufacturing model global. And the whole purpose in and around that is people talk about competitive marketplaces and global competitive advantage. We believe that we have coined the first non-displacement model that can be delivered both globally and locally, and that's what's important to us, that it's not going out there and building something newer and bigger. It's about reverse engineering and taking stock of what is the excellence that already exists out there, and let's create an ecosystem that really has that fused more together, where everyone wins and everyone benefits.
Right. And where and when did you start about learning about the SDGs, especially gender equality?
The past 2 years, our public sector have been very much not on our sides, although they want to be, but they're not there yet. And so I couldn't keep what was driving us forward. We have a supply chain model. So we have a blockchain for supply chain model, which I'm really excited. I'm going to be speaking to Santosh about that later. And so we want to look at two main areas. One is textiles, and we want to have our pathway from India out from there for our textiles model, and our food security model from one of the African nations. And we want to run them in parallel and do cross collaboration and look at bottlenecks, challenges, what works well where, and how do we do that. And the best way that we're going to do that is we've already got an established supply chain partner where they have a full trade affiliated supply chain, and we're going to use that as an exemplar model. And again, because they're fully fair trade and they're going to be the coffee for COP26, which is very exciting, then we're hoping to take what do we already know and what haven't we blind spot yet, and how do we make that really robust and underpinned for future supply chains.
I think that would be amazing, and
Thank you.
CPIT is open for any collaboration. So,
Yes.
do you think there were any barriers, or do you think there are some barriers which women face when they come into leadership?
Many, sadly, many. However, when I say many, we have seen much progress, but I think we can't be complacent on the progress that has already been made. We actually need to build on that progress and use those voices and those powers of persuasion to say, well, look, if we know that it is actually more economically viable for everyone, if women can get a seat at the table. And that doesn't mean displacing men or anyone else. It really just means let's budge up and create a space at the table, or let's build a table that everyone can sit at. It's really not that challenging, but we need it. But having worked in manufacturing for 5 years, I have to say I felt very included. In the UK, I feel very, very privileged, and I'm looking forward to expanding our model down in the Borders area.
And you are an innovator. What do you think the major challenge when we try to bring innovation to organizations?
I think it's for me, it's certainly been a credibility issue. I don't have a degree. I haven't went to the latest business school. I'm a vocational learner. I learn by doing. And I think where we have all these university innovation hubs and sandboxes, we don't have anything like that really for our working class or anyone who really wants to get under the hood of what are our real social and environmental issues, but from a root cause stage, not a symptomatic. And I think that's where a lot of the money has been spent, on symptomatic solutions, and not taking the time or the drill down deeper to get down into what is the root cause, and how many decades or centuries has that been the case. It's just been dressed up as something different. And I think we need to be willing to go out there and challenge the systems that hinder that level of progress and growth. And that's certainly what we're all about at Beyond It, is breaking down barriers, breaking down walls, and if we don't get the help, just proving that it can be done.
What is your organization culture for women and work?
We are a predominantly female team. We actually have my husband. He is our diversity quotient. He's that middle-aged white man that no one wants on their board anymore. So we must make sure that we have a space for him. We also have a male intern, and we also have a transgender woman who's working with me on a manufacturing app, and so that's going to be a joint business venture that her and I are working on, which we're very excited about. But we're like a small mini United Nations team, and I'd be happy to invite a couple of the girls over to say hello. There's only a woman, so Saeed, say that, come and say hello. So yeah, we are, for us, it's about pure inclusion. And I think that's where our model very much differs. We don't advertise a job. We very much, people are recommended to us or have not fit somewhere else or have a challenge or barrier. And what we're able to do is build a job around them and then start to build that career pathway. So it's quite an unorthodox model, but it works. And our women are a testament to that.
That's great to know. And what, from your experience, what do you think are the first steps organizations can take towards creating an inclusive culture?
I think it's really understanding what is your culture. It's not enough to say it. You actually, but also honest. And, it's about not bringing anyone down. It's how do we build each other up? And we look at our differences as our strengths rather than as our weaknesses. And that's what makes us a small core team. We all have very different skill sets, and we're a very
You are some of the traits of a great leader. With 3 or 4.
Honesty, openness, be willing to make mistakes, not hide from them, dig deeper into the learning and what they are. We've had some great wins from what have been some of our biggest mistakes, because we've not perceived them as mistakes, we've perceived them as learning opportunities. That didn't go right. Oh, that's cost us a lot of money. Okay, let's make that work to our advantage. And I think that's very much our approach. And that's quite hard to do in a large organisation that already has a set culture. So it's much easier to make that the standpoint as a starting out. And so I would encourage larger organisations to look at almost like micro ecosystems within their organisation, and how do they trial and test that out, but give that full support, especially when it goes wrong. Being there for each other when it goes wrong, that's more important than the big wins, I think.
Right. And you are an inspiration to youngsters, and you are training many youth, I presume, right? So what advice would you like to give to the women who are climbing the leadership ladder?
Oh, I go for it. Absolutely go for it. And don't go where the doors are closed. Build your network, speak to people. Go where people will either have a door open for you or are willing to open that door for you, because we live in a digital world now. It's one of the privileges that I love about partnering with CIMSME India. It's like you recognise what our Scotland's counterparts don't yet, and for us it's a big wide world out there. Let's get out there and do it. Don't worry about having your brilliance being hidden away. Everyone has something to offer. We all are people of value. We just have to sometimes dig a bit deeper to find what that is. And no imposter syndrome. We all have our good days and our bad days. We don't need an imposter syndrome on top of that. Let's just get rid of that altogether.
Right. And I have a lot of questions to ask, but the time is limited. So my last two questions would be, how do you feel being in the list of 100 women leaders and being awarded under the She Trades Global Leadership Awards?
It's an absolute honour and a privilege, and it gives me real hope. You know, we have battled very hard over the past 8 years. The past 5 have been particularly challenging, with the last 3, obviously the last one. But to know that we have that recognition globally, to know that we have partners that are willing to partner with us and share our values, and we can all do things differently, but for that core purpose and in around the SDGs. It's just phenomenal, mind-blowing. I cannot thank you all enough for having me.
Thank you so much and congratulations. And what is your message for She Trades Global Mission 2021?
Get out there and do it. We are waiting for you.
Great. Thank you so much. And it was great having you with us today. And I really enjoyed the conversation with you. I have a lot more questions to you. We will catch offline. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aparna.
All
Thank
the
you,
best.
kindly. And thank you, Santosh. Take
Wish you
care.
all the best for your future projects
Bye-bye.
as well. Thank you, dear audience, for being with us till now. Requesting you to stay tuned. We'll be back in some time with another powerful global woman leader. If you think you're an elite performer and looking for exponential leadership, join us. You can get all the details at gcpit.org. This is Aparna G. Kumar signing off. Good night and stay safe.